Hello again, it's good to see you and welcome back for another thought. Our thought today comes from Andy Jefferson, and Andy is a pioneer worker for the Church of England in the Diocese of St Edmundsbury and Ipswich. So we'll hand over to him. He'll explain more about his role and share some thoughts with us today.
Hi, my name's Andy. It's great to have this opportunity to share with you. I'm a youth worker and a pioneer in the Church of England in Ipswich. Although ordinarily I'm a youth worker and a pioneer, at the moment I'm on furlough. So I'm finding things to do in my time, and it's great to have this opportunity to share with you. And I want to share something about what I've been learning in this kind of lockdown time and pandemic experience. That's about the Sabbath, and in some ways the whole experience has felt like a giant Sabbath, whereas before my life was full of things and I was busy and active and doing stuff. I've really, like probably many of you, had to slow right down, and that's been challenging, but I've learned a lot as well. And I've read a book by a guy called John Mark Comer called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, which seems to be quite a topical book for a time like this, a world in lockdown. And it's a book that I recommend. And in the book, he talks about several practices, but one of the things he talks about is practicing the Sabbath and making that an active decision that we do. And I think it's quite a deep and insightful point, certainly something that challenged me from having a day off. Sure, I was having a day off beforehand, but to actively marking the Sabbath in kind of quite a distinct way. So in some ways it seems a strange time to do this, but my wife and I have been actively trying to do Sabbath during lockdown. So we're resting from resting, which is interesting, but actually that's been quite good in some ways because we've been able to define the two. What's different from just having a day off to actually having a Sabbath day. And I want to share 5 things with you that I've learned about Sabbath. So here it goes. The first thing, Sabbath is like a spiritual discipline, like prayer, reading the Bible, fasting, whatever. It won't happen unless you make active plans for it to happen. So there's a difference between not going to work, having a day off, and actively practicing having a rest day. So this is where, being off work has been really interesting because it's enabled us to kind of work out the distinction between the two. And I think, one of the things is being quite conscious about marking the kind of beginning and ending of it. And that's the second point, really. So it's number 2 is make the Sabbath distinct. And one of the best ways to do this is to bookend it with prayer. So prayer at the beginning and prayer at the end. And that doesn't have to be really a long time of prayer or whatever, but actually, just a bit of time of prayer, kind of begin and end, really make a big difference. The third thing, in the Jewish world, the Sabbath would start on a Friday evening and run through to the Saturday evening, sorry. So starting your Sabbath in the evening is a really good way. And I think that's the way in the Jewish world it works. And it's 24 hours from that moment. And maybe that's the way to start as well. We've been starting it with a meal on the Friday evening, and we've been using the leftovers of that meal throughout the rest of the Sabbath. And that stretches over the next 24 hours. And following that big meal, we'll then have another kind of cheeky meal in the morning. On the Saturday, we'll be having pain au chocolat, fresh pain au chocolat, which we've been putting in the oven, which just really makes you want to get up and seize the day. And that links to point 4, which is your Sabbath should be the best 24 hours of your week. And that's the aim of the Sabbath. And that, that was something for me that was a kind of a game changer, that actually kind of shifted my mindset of something like passively resting and not doing anything to actively doing things that I, really wanted to do. So for me, that was the cooking in the evening, on the Friday evening, but also we've also been making a real conscious effort to get out of an urban environment into nature, doing something different, and spending some time in nature, which has been really good for our mental health on other days other than Sabbath, but also doing it particularly on Sabbath, maybe spending 2 hours going for a long walk or something. And fifthly, finally, the Sabbath isn't about one day of the week, but it's actually about all of them. So the Sabbath, strangely, seems to start to infect all the other days of the week. Because we're not machines and we can't just switch gears just like that, it starts to infect what we do in the other days of the week. So I had this experience where one week I just did. I binge watched TV pretty much all week. And then it came to Sabbath and I wasn't able to really switch off in the same way. I kind of like fried my brain a little bit, I think. And the next week I chose not to do that again. And that was not kind of something I made a massive conscious decision of, but you just start to work out what's healthy for you when you do this. And that's the amazing thing about Sabbath, that it has the ability to slow us down. And the challenge, of course, for us now is, as we slowly come out of lockdown, how are we going to kind of keep that as part of our life? But I guess people could talk about the new normal, and maybe this is the time to kind of build it as a practice into our lives. And I think as Christians, maybe we should be reflecting on this at this time. And the society we live in, I'm sure, is going to want to rush back to living at the same speed as we were before. But maybe as Christians, we might want to make a practice of Sabbath that will just slow us down and kind of act as a circuit breaker every 7 days to kind of stop us getting on that treadmill that never seems to stop, and encouraging us to live at a different pace. I'm going to finish with a quote by a guy called Kosuke Koyama from Japan, and his book, The 3 Mile an Hour God. And he's been talking about how God doesn't seem to act as fast as we might like. So he's been using the example of the 40 years in the wilderness and other examples in the Bible, and that God seems to take his time. And he writes this quote, and I'll finish with this quote. He says, "God walks slowly because he is love. If he is not love, he would have gone much faster. Love has its speed. It is an inner speed. It is a spiritual speed. And it is a different kind of speed from the technological speed to which we are accustomed. It is slow, yet is Lord over all other speeds, since it is the speed of love." Thank you.